Today, we dive into how to pitch brands, ways to connect more with your fans, and how to create products they love. Next on Makin Bacon. Hey there, I'm Jason Logston, and this is Makin Bacon. We're all about helping you serve your fans, grow your income, and get the most out of your blog. Today's episode is brought to you by my very own Self-Publishing 101 course. And the average home cook owns almost 50 times more printed cookbooks than PDF cookbooks. So why are you limiting yourself? With the advent of print-on-demand companies like Amazon KDP and Ingram Spark, it's easier than ever to become your own publisher. But if you don't know what you're doing, you can waste not only your time, but also your money. After publishing 15 cookbooks, including a top 10 cookbook on Amazon, I know publishing, especially self-publishing, and I want to share my expertise with you. That's where my course comes in, stepping you through the entire self-publishing process so you can get your printed cookbook up for sale on Amazon without making any mistakes. You can check that out now at makethatbacon.com/publishnow. Now, on to the show. As bloggers, we often get so hung up on creating recipes that we forget we are writing them for real people. And at the most basic level, people turn to our recipes because of the connection we have with them. But how can we make that connection stronger and even use it to create products they love? Luckily, today's guest is the perfect person to help us out. She is a Dallas, Texas-based content creator, and since 2016, she's been sharing allergy-friendly recipes and tips for entertaining and traveling with dietary restrictions on theurbanlife.com. In 2019, she founded Bloggerbytes, a blog dedicated to sharing transparent advice with fellow content creators. I can't wait to learn from today's guest, Jenna Urben from The Urban Life. Jenna, welcome to Makin Bacon.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you on. We overlap in a lot of areas from a food blogger perspective and helping food bloggers, and I think we have a lot to dive into. But before we do, I always like to start every episode with, what is it like around your dinner table on a typical day?
Ooh, what a fun question. So I should say we have a dinner table. We have a formal dinner table and a casual one, but we actually eat at the kitchen island. It's just me, my husband, and our dog, Brutus. Yeah, so we eat at the kitchen counter with our stools, which is hilarious. Every single night I'm like, we should probably sit at the table, just make it a little bit nicer. But no, we're at the counter and we often have tacos, pizza. Those are like my two staples for sure. Anyone who follows me is always like, all right, Jenna, do you have any new recipes? Like, let's steer away from tacos. And I'm like, some enchiladas? But yeah, that's pretty typical. At the kitchen island eating tacos.
We normally do our dinners on the couch, but our lunches are right here at our kitchen counter. So we were there eating 2 hours ago today, so I can relate to that.
Yes, very similar concept right there.
What's your favorite taco filling?
Well, I have to have avocado on. Let's just say avocado. Let's just keep it. But I really, let's just go all in. Come on, I am a food blogger after all. I would say my favorite, like recent one on repeat, is black beans with roasted sweet potatoes and avocado crema and maybe some yogurt in place of sour cream.
That sounds amazing. We were just planning our weekly meals and we have sweet potatoes left over, so we might have to do some sweet potato tacos there.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love sweet potatoes so much.
It's one of my wife's favorite things, so I have grown into making sweet potatoes. My mom still gets a kick out of it that growing up, she would make sweet potato casserole with marshmallows on top, and I would like scoop it out as like the steepest angle I could to like maximize my marshmallow to sweet potatoes.
Oh, just the topping?
Yeah, because all I wanted was the marshmallows. I didn't like the sweet potatoes, where now I'm cooking sweet potatoes, and she's like, you've come a long way since you were a kid.
I love it. I love it.
The marshmallows are still my favorite part of it, but I do enjoy the sweet potatoes.
Well, yeah.
So we met on Clubhouse, which I love being a part of over the last, I guess, 6 months at this point. How have you been using that, especially to connect with other bloggers out there?
Yeah, so I wish I could remember the exact day I got on Clubhouse. I feel like it was, I don't know. I honestly have no idea, but it has been a while. And I kind of, when I was first getting started, I was like, I don't think I'm really gonna be on this app too much. And then I remember I joined I don't remember which exact food blog club it was, but I joined one and there was just a ton of food bloggers. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I've read your blog for years and years. Like now you're my friend. We're just talking on Clubhouse. And so I think like one club became another and I just started joining all the different clubs. I created my own, and that kind of is still growing. So I just kind of bop around different clubs and different rooms. It's been super fun. I've met some really awesome bloggers, and from our Clubhouse chats, we've created like Instagram, like mastermind groups, like not quite to like a Facebook group status, but like we're all in the same chat, and it's incredible just to kind of have that food blogger community where you can say like, hey, like, did you hear about this like new plugin, or what themes do you guys have? Who's your host? Or something as silly as just like, I don't know, just something random going on in like the food blogging world, right? That none of your other friends would like necessarily get, but you can send to these girls and we can just totally relate and chat about. So yeah, it's been super fun and I've met a lot of really cool people and I'm still like exploring the app and joining new rooms. So yeah, it's been fun for sure.
Yeah, we met in the Megan Porta's Eat Blog Talk room that she does weekly, and I help co-host with that whenever I can, because I agree, I learn so much, and there's so many neat things that different approaches, people are doing different things, different tools I've never heard of. Like, it's fantastic to jump into there and to just talk to people that are doing what I am doing, which it's hard to find people that do what we do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
What's the club that you started so people know where they can find you on Clubhouse?
Yeah, it is called Monetize Your Influence. And so, like the name suggests, we talk about all the different ways that you can earn an income being an influencer, content creator, blogger. And yeah, I think some of the best conversations have been about free tools for a content creator. We talked about web stories very recently. We've talked about paid tools that are like useful. Me and another food blogger, Lauren, I think you're familiar with Lauren. We both are like, we're willing to spend money, but it has to be worth it. And so we always have really awesome conversations. Yeah, they're always fun. And it's funny. Sometimes like when I'm hosting a room, I'll almost have like an outline that we try to follow. And it's like very educational and I'm like taking notes and questions to then turn into a blog post afterwards. But yeah, I was chatting with Megan last Friday and I actually was like, you know what? I'm going to take a more casual approach this week. And I like went on my patio with my coffee and it was still a super insightful and educational, fun room. But, you know, I wasn't docked at my computer, like meticulously taking notes. So yeah, you have to figure out like which vibe do you want, but I love it. I do love it so much.
You mentioned free tools that content creators need to know about. What are some tools that you would recommend people checking out?
Yeah. Okay, so off the top of my head, so I'm very recently getting into YouTube and this is first thing is DaVinci Resolve for video editing. I was using iMovie and I was just banging my head every time I needed to edit something. And so I was like, all right, do I need to invest in Final Cut Pro or Premiere Pro or something like that? And then I found DaVinci Resolve and they have a free version. I will never even know all of the different options and tools I have in there, but it is great. I really love that. For organizing, I'm obsessed with Trello. Mm-hmm. I use the desktop version and my phone app. What are some others? I actually really do love Photoshop, but I know that there's a time and a place for Canva. So obviously Canva is probably like number one in the blogging world for free tools. But yeah, there's a lot of really good ones and some that like I've heard of, or I may have heard of a few years ago, like the accounting app Waze. I think it's Wave.
That sounds right. I think Waze
Yeah,
is
I think it's
the
Wave.
traffic app that's free, right?
Yeah, it's not that one. Yeah, Wave, I guess, is kind of like a competitor maybe for QuickBooks. And I use QuickBooks, but I know a lot of bloggers are starting to use Wave again because it has similar capabilities and integration. So I am very happy with QuickBooks though. So I don't know if I will make that switch, but it's nice to know there's an option for sure.
Yeah, you never know when a product will take a downward turn. I feel like we've all run into that a favorite product like
Yes,
upgrades to something and you're like, this is not what I
yes,
need anymore.
exactly.
I feel like I did that with Photoshop some that I still like it for certain things, but I was
Yeah,
like, why would I use Canva when I understand Photoshop and know that? And then the first time I used it, I was like, oh, because I can do this in like a tenth
I
of the
know.
time for a lot of things.
I know. It's so I really do bounce back and forth. I think it really depends what I'm trying to do, like what the goal is with whatever I'm working on. But yeah, I learned Photoshop in college. It was actually like one of my courses. And so I mean, I'm not like a pro at it by any means, but I'm definitely comfortable in it. But I totally hear what you're saying with Canva. Like it's so easy just to like drag and drop. There's nice little lines and bumpers. So yeah, it is useful.
You had mentioned web stories. I would love to dive a little more into that. That's something I've explored. I have a guide on web stories that people can check out
Yeah,
if they're interested. What's been your
sure.
experience using web stories and how they kind of fit into your overall blogging strategy?
Well, I am a big fan of Google Web Stories. I started using them in November 2020. So, kind of right when they were, I don't know if it was like when they were rolling out, but it was certainly when they were like kind of fresh on the scene. Not everyone knew about them yet. I feel like everyone has heard about them by now, or trickles like, what is this new Google story thing? What is it? So yeah, I started using it, I feel like pretty early on. And so I use both the WordPress plugin to create them, but I also use Gumroad to create them as well. But I've been loving them, especially so I brought up Canva. Do you use the WordPress plugin
I
to make web
don't.
stories?
I'm actually not on WordPress, so I have a whole
Okay.
random custom content editor set up. So I actually program
Ooh,
the web stories
okay.
by hand.
Oh my gosh.
But feel free. Most
Wow.
I'm the only one I think in my audience that isn't on WordPress. So please talk about the WordPress editor as
Okay.
well.
Yeah. So it's definitely, even in the past, how many ever months it's been, there's been like a lot of really significant updates to it. And so if you were one of the people who kind of experimented back in like November, December, it's the same experience. It's just a little less clunky, I would say. But my biggest tip is if you are on WordPress and you want to use web stories, obviously get the plugin and then create a template that you love, and even better, if it's one that gets picked up in Google Discover, kind of just replicate that and then drag and drop in your media. I know that they definitely have, I don't know how many exactly pre-made templates, maybe like 7 or so pre-made templates. But I found if you just create your own template, and I was bringing up Canva because it's kind of a similar dashboard with your media library on one side, and you kind of have your workspace in the center, and you can just kind of the media that you have on in your WordPress media library, it just automatically loads right there. So you can, if you already have a video clip, if you have that image, you can just drag and drop it in there. But you can also use I know they have different partnerships with like Unsplash or Upsplash and a few other like things for GIFs and videos and whatnot. So they're like they're listening to the feedback that the creators have, and I think they're really taking a lot of stuff into account, especially now there's a way to monetize them through AdSense. So yeah, I'd be happy. I mean, I could literally, I just kind of like went in head first. But yeah, I love web stories and kind of explaining like why they're so powerful. I mentioned Google Discover. It's so exciting. Like I totally nerd out with my like Google Analytics and like watching like AdSense and Google web search console, like just seeing like, like what is resonating with my audience. Am I reaching a new audience? And how am I reaching that new audience? Like what content that is. And that's super cool with web stories because you can get picked up on Google Discover and reach an entirely new audience that, they may not have found my blog as quickly or as easily if I wasn't picked up on Discover. And so it's just really cool to have this carousel of stories that then people can click through and they don't expire, which is like the best thing. So something I posted months ago could still in theory, it could get picked up today or tomorrow. And then the users could click through it on Discover, and then I could I'd call it the swipe up, similar to like Instagram swipe up, direct those users to my blog. And then I potentially could have a new blog reader. They might sign up on my subscriber list. And so that's why I think it's so cool and important for people to, you just have to figure out, like, does it work into your content strategy? What are your goals with it? I think if driving traffic and trying to reach a new audience, if those are some of your goals, then like definitely try it out. I'd love to hear your experience as well.
I've done probably 5 or 8 of them, and some of them have taken off, not relative to some people I know who have got like 50,000 new visitors overnight. But it's been interesting to kind of experiment with it and see how it fits in. And that's one of my goals over the next like 3 to 4 months, is to put out a bunch, because they don't expire, like you said. You had so much good stuff there that I'd like to unpack.
Let's do it.
You talked about, not expiring, I think, is a huge deal for us content creators. It's a frustration with Instagram or anything that you put time and energy into putting out content that goes away right away. Have you found much old web stories getting traction, or do they still bring in smaller amounts of traffic? How's your kind of looking at a historical view of you doing this for a while? What does it kind of look like?
So I will definitely say where I've seen like the big spikes, like thousands of new users coming in, that seems to happen. So, a recent example is I did one on, let's say I published one on Friday, and then I noticed like the steep increase on Monday. There was some on Tuesday, and then this was last week, and there was like trickles Wednesday. But I will say there was one, and it was interesting. That one was just like a very random recipe. It like wasn't seasonal at all. It was dairy-free chocolate chip overnight oats. So it was just very like, you could have it in spring, summer, winter, whenever. So that was something I thought was interesting. And then a few days ago, so today's Wednesday, so it would have been Monday, I think I noticed that my corn fritters were randomly getting some views and click-throughs. And that was like one of my very first web stories that I published. And so, I have no idea how things get pulled. I really have no idea about that. But I'm trying to even think how many I might have. I have made on the plugin, because, so like I said, I use Gumroad and the WordPress plugin. I don't know. I'm certainly on page 2 if you go to like my theurbanlife.com/web-stories. So I don't know, maybe like 20. I don't know, somewhere around there.
It's nice to see that they still get some traffic in over time as well, that every once in a while older ones might get picked up again and kind of recycled through the Google Discover ecosystem. Yeah,
and I think another thing that's interesting too is, so for food bloggers, especially, the first thing that, might come to mind is which recipes are my most popular, like my top 10 most popular recipes, or take that into account, and then also maybe consider which ones have little video clips or the process photos that you can do. Another opportunity I think that we have, and so because I'm dairy free and egg free, I know egg substitutes, non-dairy alternatives, things like that, those type of topics that kind of complement your content. That's another awesome opportunity too to try to explore. The one that I did, I think it was like the 8 best most common, or what was it? Like the best common egg replacers. Like, what are they and why do I love them? Why are they the best? That one got picked up. It wasn't huge like the overnight oat one. That one has definitely been the best. But yeah, I think I also did some travel ones as well, and kind of tied in like allergy friendly eating while traveling. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to kind of play with the content and see like what complements and what people resonate with, really.
About how long are most of your web stories?
I try to have them at least 8 pages, and I do that because I want ads basically to be able to be inserted into the web stories. And I've heard from, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard that kind of like around 8 slides, 7 to 8 slides is where they could kind of insert an ad. So that's what I've been experimenting with. I also think it's the most important thing when you're creating a web story to tell a full story. And so I kind of approach it like the first slide might be like an intro to what the recipe is, explaining just like a very like keyword type heavy, like dairy free overnight oats are blah blah blah. And then I will go into like a review. If someone has left me a review like these are the best ever, then I'll kind of slide that in there. And so that's 2 pages, and then and including the like the cover photo, I guess, on like the first page. And then I'll do like an ingredient list, maybe, depending on if it's like, I kind of bop around. I like experiment with, do I do the ingredient list first, or do I just include it in the little sentence? But then I really go into like step 1, 2, 3, 4. So that definitely helps kind of build it out while being easy to digest, but also like clickable, but you also are getting a full story. And then I've also experimented with at the end doing kind of a quick Q&A, or like an FAQ, and say that I used, I don't know, like some obscure ingredient or like something that maybe isn't the most common. I might explain like, this is what it is, and here's some other recipes you can use it in. Or if I use like my favorite store-bought egg replacer, I will put an affiliate link for it in there. So yeah, I think that there's definitely ways to make longer web stories with it still being interesting and not like, oh my gosh, I'm scrolling or I'm tapping along forever.
Yeah, it seems like there's something that a lot of people, it's kind of like Instagram stories, that if it's an interesting story, you'll keep tapping through. Like it's rare to get stuck on one with someone that you follow and like, I'm bored of this. Like if
Right.
you follow them, you generally like them.
Yeah.
So you put together stories that are at least 8 to 10 pages long. And then how do you capture that traffic? You had talked about doing the swipe up. Do you do that on every page, or do you try to get more ads in there? What's kind of a good mix that you found for kind of maximizing that traffic that might find these stories?
Yeah. So I kind of mentioned how my first 1 or 2 slides are kind of like a intro to the recipe or maybe a review or feedback. So I won't include like the swipe up or page attachment is what they call it. I won't include that link on those. I'll start to include it once I get to like the process. So like step 1, like pour dairy-free milk into a bowl, or whatever step 1 is. And I will do the link. I'll do that like through all the steps. And then sometimes I will incorporate affiliate link at the end. For a while there, I had like just one big end call to action page with, actually, it was like a series. It was like, so I don't do this anymore. I'll tell you what I do now, which I think is better. But it would be like so you have the recipe, and then maybe I did like a slide of FAQ, and then I would say like, want the full recipe, swipe up, and then it would be a new card and say like, want to join my private exclusive Facebook group, swipe up, and then a new card and say, I don't even know, like check out the video on YouTube, swipe up. And then I would have the final card and it would say more stories. And it would have like maybe four other stories that kind of related. And I really liked how that looked. And I thought it was cool because I was getting, I was really doing all the call to action. But I realized that those didn't really convert. The ones that converted it was just too much, probably. I know for me as a user, when I have too many options, I'm just like, oh, never mind, like next. So now I still do the page attachment swipe up throughout the steps, throughout the directions. And then I really have one page and it's like, do you want the full recipe? Like click here. Do you want the video? Which I don't always have a video for it, but if I do have a YouTube video for it, here's the video. And then I'll say, click here to join my email list and get my free dairy-free, egg-free quick start guide. And I found that like, really, I don't get a ton of like the YouTube clicks or the subscriber clicks, but the ones straight to the recipe, those are like, that's where I really see where the new users are coming and how I'm driving them. So I think that's like the most valuable probably. But I mean, I certainly want anyone who comes across it to know like, hey, like I do have this video. It is a full blog post. I think that's the most important is like, this is a full blog post. Even though I included the full recipe in the web story, like you're probably not going to make it right then when you're tapping through. So to say like, I think it was Lauren actually who suggested saying like having a call to action that said went something like for the full printable recipe, swipe up. And I thought that was interesting because it's even if you weren't gonna print it out, that still triggers like, oh, I can grab this and like have this full hard copy recipe right here. So I haven't tinkered with that, but yeah, I'm always experimenting with like which call to actions like convert the best. And yeah, I do think including the swipe up page attachment throughout the steps is helpful, especially because if you get to like step 2 and you're like, just give me the full recipe. Especially once you get into like substitutions and like alternatives and stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of my strategy currently.
It seems like that would make sense too, that I think, knowing your audience and what social media they're currently using, like when they find a web story, they're probably, not searching for something specific. A lot of times using Google Discover, they're clicking around. They're like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then if they start getting into it, they'd be more likely to, not necessarily watch like a full YouTube video, but be like, I want to make this. I want to save this for later. And like, give me the link to the recipe and I'll, save that or email that to myself or whatever so I can hit it later.
Right. Yeah, totally.
And I like having the swipe up on every page that you don't know when it's going to click for someone. Like, give them the option. Don't make them, I saw a link somewhere. Let me click around here to see where it actually is. Make it easy for them.
Exactly. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. 100%. Yes.
I think it's Casey Marquis that always says, treat your audience like 2-year-olds or drunk people, that you just want to make it as simple as possible.
Yes. I love that.
Speaking of connecting with drunk people, you do a lot with like Facebook groups, and I feel like a lot of people on Facebook can act like the wrong sort of drunk people. But I know you're a big proponent of using Facebook groups to connect with your audience, to kind of grow your network. Can you talk a little bit about how you got into using Facebook groups?
Yeah, absolutely. So before we got on this call, I was going to look and see how many groups I'm a part of. I did not get around to it, but honestly, I'm like probably in over 100 Facebook groups. Like I'm in a lot of groups and I don't check or monitor all of them, but I'm in a lot. And I always have been, or maybe not always, but ever since college, I feel like the amount of groups I've been in, like I joined a lot. I guess that was when I was in college, so like at different communities there, different groups and clubs. And then when I graduated, it was kind of more like professional networking groups that I joined. And then when I started blogging and doing freelance marketing and stuff like that, I kind of got into groups like that. And when I think I was really lucky when I first started food blogging or blogging in general in 2016, for whatever reason, I mean, because I was already using Facebook groups, that's why. My first instinct was like, there's going to be a Facebook group for it, right? And I think back then, there was a lot, but I feel like a lot of them that I joined were for like virtual assistants and more like freelance type gigs, less blogging focused. And then, I don't know, starting maybe like 2018, probably, that's when I just noticed like a boom of influencer, content creator, blogger groups. And that's really when my already large Facebook group list just exploded. But yeah, so I was lucky to when I was kind of first like, okay, I'm gonna start a blog. Where do I start? I joined a bunch of Facebook groups, and then that kind of got my mind going like, okay. So I started my dairy-free, egg-free food blog in 2016. Maybe I should have a Facebook group for dairy-free and egg-free recipes. And I actually didn't start that group though until 2017. And I don't know why. I don't like I was looking back at like the dates that everything started happening and ramping up, and I have no idea why I waited a year to start that recipe group. But yeah, my dairy-free and egg-free Facebook group, it's just like it sounds, recipes. You can connect with me personally for if you need a recipe request, a product like suggestion or recommendation. If you're traveling somewhere, what are the best restaurants? Where have you found the best dairy-free anything while traveling? It's a really awesome community. And I think 2018 was like the pivotal year where I realized like, okay, my Facebook group has like really grown. It's larger than my email list. At that point, it was like way larger than my Instagram following. And I was like, maybe I should like, put some strategy behind this, like actually consider like what can I do with this community? And to be honest, like I really still don't have like a strong strategy, I guess, with the group. At the end of the day, it's really just a group of direct people in my community. You need dairy-free and egg-free recipes and product suggestions, and it's just a really kind, open community. And it's really awesome. In the past couple years, like the members themselves like they also find that community. So I don't have to constantly be in there giving the recommendations or sharing the recipes. Someone can ask something and I'll approve it. And then there's like 50 people helping this, grandma who needs help with baking a dairy-free chocolate cake for her grandson or whatever. Super cool to see. And so that's kind of like one side of it. Like I certainly use it to kind of drive traffic to my blog, products I sell, but really ultimately just like create like a safe space for people who are new to eliminating stuff from their diets. Because I remember how hard it was. And I had like my support system, like my family and my friends, right? But people who have to cut out dairy, like there's kind of like a whole new world. Like, what do I do? What do I eat? So just having that community, that's like the strategy for that. And just having a very kind, welcoming community than to direct the traffic to like, oh, I have a blog post for this cupcake recipe. That's a very common request. Cupcakes and cakes. Very common.
Not surprising at all.
Not at all. Not at all. So that's kind of like the one way that I use Facebook groups. And that was like where I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. Like I love this community is the best, like the best, honestly. And then in that same time period, 2018, I was, like I said, I was in a ton of groups, and I was specifically in a bunch of these subgroups for this popular pop culture podcast. And there's just like hundreds, honestly, of these different groups for, do you live in Dallas? Are you in marketing? Do you have a dog? Like, are you on Weight Watchers? Like, so hyper specific. So naturally I had to join all of them. And one of them was, are you a blogger? And I don't remember what the name was back in 2018. It has since been rebranded. But
what's the name of it?
Actually, the group now is called, I literally just rebranded it a few days ago. It is Content Creators Corner.
Nice. And
it's really meant to be a community for content creators, influencers and bloggers, like very inclusive. If you're a YouTuber, if you're a TikToker, if you just have a blog, or if you are only on Instagram, like if you're a content creator and you want to join a community, this can be that for you. For obviously community, but to seek advice and, you know, just really like an all-encompassing type community. So it's not like, I know back when I first started blogging, there were a lot of groups that were like every Monday or like every day, like there was like threads to like drop like a link, kind of like an engagement pod. It's not like that at all. We will have kind of like a show it off type thing, like show us your new sponsored posts. But it's certainly, the goal is just like support, really, at the end of the day. And I was actually, I mentioned I was looking at the times and kind of how all of this came together in the past couple of years. And that group was founded 3 years ago. Next week, it'll be 3 years. And up until like last month, or I don't know, I mean, very recently, it was a private, or it was a secret group. And so you could only get into the group if you knew someone in there. Like if I shared it or something, it was like, because it had started from like a different community. And so it was like kind of on lockdown, right? But we realized, we were like, well, like, let's open it up. So it's still a private group. So your friends don't see you posting in there. They don't get the notification. But now to join, anyone can join. I think we have membership questions, and all it is like drop your URL. Like where can we find you? Just to make sure like you are actually a content creator. But I mean, it's also like, there's also like, it's like optional, like haven't started yet. Like, what do you want to do? How can we help you? And that's helpful. It's me and one other girl who are the like co-moderators, and she's the one who started it. But once I kind of was like, oh my gosh, we have like, this is gold, like so many content creators coming together. And what's great is it's not just food bloggers, it's lifestyle, fashion, travel, even like super niche ones too. And so that's why I got like so invested in this group, because it was very refreshing, like the same or similar struggles that, you know, a food content creator might have. And even, so let's say, so I consider myself, I'm a micro influencer or content creator. in the food space. The struggles I have are the same struggles that a fitness content creator who has like 40K followers. Like we have like similar struggles that we can talk about and kind of navigate together. And so once I realized that, it was kind of like a mind-blowing experience, honestly, because I was like, wow, like I love talking about this stuff. I have this group of awesome creators who like, someone has a question and we all have different perspectives and we can all try to navigate and figure that out together. And so, yeah, that group was pretty monumental. And so up until then, I had the Urban Life, my food blog. And then once I kind of was like, oh my gosh, I actually love talking about content creating and how you can earn an income from it and how you can pitch brands directly and get these long-term partnerships and even talking about web stories, just something that's fun but could also direct serious traffic to your blog. I love talking about all these different things. And so that's why I created Bloggerbytes to really start sharing those resources. And I don't even know if I really would have taken that step to create Bloggerbytes if it wasn't really for the support from that Facebook group. It certainly would have taken me longer, because what I found was somebody would ask a question. Let's go with the pitching brands question, because that's like by far my most commonly asked question. How do you work with brands, Jenna? Like, they don't mean it rudely, but they're like, you're small. Like, how do you get these partnerships? And I'm like, thanks a lot, guys. But so I was getting that question daily, multiple times a day. And I was like, okay, I can't keep writing out the same exact thing every single time. And so I decided, let's write a blog post about it. I'll start to finish. Here's exactly what I do. Here's what I did in the past to set myself up and position myself this way. Here's how I pitch them. Here's how I follow up. Here's how I report and gain that next partnership. So I was making this blog post and it was like a novel. I was like, oh my gosh, this can't be a blog post. No way. And so that's when I realized, okay, wait a second. I'm going to make this into an ebook. But on Bloggerbytes, I still want to have these quick, digestible, value-packed blog posts that when I do get a question like, hey, what's a YouTube short? How did you drive all that traffic with a short? Then I can say, here's a blog post for you. And so that's really how Bloggerbytes was like founded, I guess, and kind of laid the foundation for now all these other products I have, free and paid. So it's been incredible to think like that really just came from a Facebook group. That's crazy.
I think that's a great way to figure out both freebies and products and blog posts. Like I use my Exploring Sous Vide group all the time and see like, what are people asking time and time again? And that's stuff that's not out there covered. Like you said, it makes a great blog post. It makes great lead magnets. It makes great, paid products. Like that's a great way. If you're solving problems that people keep asking about, like people are willing to pay money a lot of times to get that information if you solve it in a great way. And if not, they're at least willing to sign up for mailing lists and stuff. It's a fantastic source of, material for your blog and to potentially make money from.
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of like digital products and stuff, like making money in general, what do you think is a good like first place for bloggers that want to or content creators that want to move on from ad networks alone and start bringing in another source of income? What do you think they should start exploring?
Oh, yeah. Well, I am a huge fan of digital products. I know that you also, from your intro, I learned a lot about creating self-publishing and doing stuff like that. That's something I haven't explored, but I think we're going to have to chat about very soon. But yeah, so I started my first kind of like dipping my toe into the water of digital products was my freebie for my food blog, my dairy-free food blog. And I put together like 10 maybe recipes And they were existing recipes that you can find on the blog, but it was really, and they weren't even necessarily like the top recipes. They were just like, I believe these are the recipes that if you're signing up for a dairy-free food blog, you're probably new to dairy-free eating. So you probably want these like common or classic traditional meals. And so that guide I created probably in 2016 or 2017. It just got a facelift like last year, I think. But honestly, I mean, it wasn't, I don't think it was like bad by any means. But that was kind of, so that's my freebie. And so that was my first kind of intro into creating digital products. And I know that you can create it in Canva. You can create them in Photoshop for sure. I created mine in Google Docs. And like people are always like, really? Like, didn't you want to use something like fancier? And I'm like, I got the job done. So like I'm okay with it right now. No one's complained.
I love that phrase. It got the job done. Like that's, we forget that so much that it is like, I was talking to someone and they were asking about that they tend to get like too perfectionist when they're coming with their food photography and like, how do I get around that? And if I had tips, and what I said was that for me, I try to remember, what am I trying to accomplish? And once I've accomplished that, like it's done. Like could the photo be better? Yes. Could your course be better? Yes. But if it's accomplishing what you're trying to accomplish with it, then it's done. It's doing it. So move on to the next thing. Like don't spend another 20 hours trying to make something slightly better when it's already doing what it's supposed to do. Spend that 20 hours doing something else that's going to also contribute to your blog.
Right. Yeah. And that was exactly my mindset. I was like, no, it's not like the flashiest thing, but for this one, this is a free thing. Like just a thank you for signing up for my subscriber list. Here you go. Here's an intro to me, what the blog is about, and here's some recipes. That's it. Now you're on my email list and you'll see my new content. So that I created it in Google Docs, exported it as a PDF, figured out how to, get it automatically sent to subscribers when they sign up. And so naturally, when it came to like, I think I want to do a holiday cookbook, dairy-free classic, that actually turned into accidentally vegan holiday classic recipes. But when it came time and I was like, I think I want to do that, I did the same thing. I just, I had a little intro, so like maybe like a paragraph or two just written out in Google Docs. And I think that one has 30 recipes. And it's a mix between exclusive and ones that are already on my blog. And I did it in Google Docs. I exported it as a PDF, and I currently use Gumroad to sell all of my ebooks and digital products. I started on Gumroad. I use Gumroad. It's incredibly simple to like the process. Like I've explained it a few times on Clubhouse, and people are always shocked. Like, that's it? That's all you did? And it's like, yes, you can do it too. Like literally in a weekend. You just have to know, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to share? What do you like? Your audience better than anyone. So what's going to get them to click buy now? What's going to convert? And so so I have my accidentally vegan, dairy-free and egg-free holiday cookbook. I recently released another one, just like all-encompassing dairy-free, egg-free classic recipes. That one has 40 recipes, and they are all exclusive. And so might have to talk to you about doing a self-publishing type thing there to get that physical copy. That would be pretty cool. And so those are the two I have for the urban life, for my food blog. For Bloggerbytes, I have a very similar process with how I create them. So I have a ultimate guide to pitching brands, which has pitch templates. It has different just like samples for following up. It has past experiences from brands I've worked with. it's like very, it also includes how to set yourself up for success and positioning yourself before you even start the pitching process. So that's my first one, and that's just the ultimate guide to pitching brands, and it's just a simple PDF document that I very lightly stylize, very lightly, and it's just like a quick start guide, really, and it's like just very conversational. And I created it in Google Docs, export it as PDF, upload to Gumroad, and that's that. And then I have another one. I have some templates, media kit and rate sheet template and I also have like a coordinating guide to kind of go along with that. Again, I created in Google Docs. The media kit and rate sheet templates are in Photoshop. So that's different. But I mean, same process, just writing out like, what is a media kit? Why is it important? What other things can you include? And then the last one, my most recent, is the easy to understand influencer agreement so that you can feel confident when signing contracts. And so similar, I did the whole thing in Google Docs. It's another like quick start guide that talks about like common terms you'll find in a contract, common things you can negotiate or counter offer, and really kind of going kind of in depth with these different terms. Because I mean, that was something that when I started getting contracts, I was like, wait a second, I don't think I want to sign my life away. Like, hang on. So I think it's very important to kind of have that. And I am not a lawyer, PS. So I definitely make that disclaimer there. But yeah, and then I have the like editable, not edible.
The show just took a little turn there with.
Nope, I don't sell that. Nope.
It's dairy free, right? It's fine.
Right? Yeah, maybe I can make a new product, my first physical product.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's been fun. And I sell those on Gumroad too. And I think that just like what you were saying, like, your audience, and when you're getting the same question over and over again, that's kind of a signal like, yes, we can certainly make this a blog post and probably should make it a blog post or coordinate to a blog post. But if it's something that's high value, you can turn that in to a product and, determine your rate or your price for it and kind of build up like a little shop. And I mean, I think there's so many different directions that content creators can go. So I was mentioning Gumroad. I love Gumroad. It is so simple to upload. The payment, I've never had any issues with that. I think it's really awesome. Literally yesterday, I got the Bloggerbytes content I uploaded to Etsy. And so now I'm also kind of experimenting with Etsy and selling digital products there. So I don't have any insight yet, but I'm curious how they'll perform, because I think when, if let's say I'm a blogger who needs an influencer agreement, if I'm going to Etsy and I'm typing in content creator or influencer influencer contract or agreement, and it pops up, yeah, okay, I got it. I'm going to buy it right there. That certainly there is that function on Gumroad, but it's not, I don't think it's built out necessarily as great as Etsy's. I think the people who are searching on Etsy, it's like, I'm ready. I need this right now. I want to buy it. I want to use it. Let's go. So more where I think what Gumroad does really well is I was able to create a really nice, kind of professional looking shop with my products that I can direct people to, kind of like a landing page. It makes a very nice landing page, I would say. So yeah, I think if you're a food blogger, there's so many different options you could go down with digital products like, grocery list checklist or meal plans, certainly recipe ebooks. Like there's so many different ways you could go. And I think that if you want to kind of create another nice passive income stream in addition to ads, or maybe not having to always rely on pitching brands and doing a certain number of brands every single month, it's a really awesome feeling when you have digital products and like the passive income is coming in. Like you did that hard work up front, and now you can be focusing on the other things that you want to be focusing on while still earning that passive income. I think it's a really awesome feeling. I highly suggest that to content creators who are interested.
Yeah, passive income is amazing to be sitting on the beach and seeing sales come in. It's a great feeling. And I love the approach of, I'm a big proponent of this too. It's like finding what your fans' problems are and then start solving them kind of broadly, like very generally. And those like make very good blog posts. And then which of those blog posts are resonating with people? What recipes are resonating? And are there aspects you can dive into more deeply? And the next like iteration might be a lead magnet, or a free course to kind of build up your newsletter. And then which one of those are resonating, and spend a little more time on the one or two of those that are really, connecting with your specific fans. And then are there paid products you can put out there that complement those? And you already have like a sales funnel built because you have the blog posts, you have the lead magnets, and now you have something to offer them at the end of it. And it's a great way to kind of step your way through that process without being like, I'm going to take 6 months and write a book, and hopefully people buy it. We'll see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's funny how I just kind of like stumbled into creating these different digital products. But yeah, that's certainly the approach I'm taking. Like when I'm getting the same question over and over again, that's like a big signal. Like let's make some content with that.
Well, Jenna, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your expertise and talking about all the amazing things that you've been up to. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day and sharing that with my audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I could talk about this for hours and hours on end. So thank you so much for inviting me. This was so much fun. I would love to dive deeper into these, either maybe in another episode or on Clubhouse, Instagram Live, wherever. I love experimenting with all the platforms. So yeah, this was fun for sure.
I'm sure we can make that happen. And for the listeners that are interested in more about you, they can go to theurbanlife.com. They can go to Bloggerbytes. They can find you on Facebook. They can find you on Clubhouse. They can find you all of the places where you are.
All of them.
You're talking about all the dairy-free food, talking about all the resources for content creators, and helping everyone move their blogs and their diets forward. So I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
This has been Makin Bacon. We're all about helping you serve your fans, grow your income, and get the most out of your blog. Till next time, I'm Jason Logston.